Earlier this year, the president ordered all federal workers back into the office. Didn't matter if there was space or not, you had to come back in. They're going to figure it out, put you in a conference room somewhere, maybe with 20, 30 other people. It didn't matter if the building was crumbling around you or the elevators didn't work. None of that mattered because the taxpayers were not getting their value because federal employees were not to be trusted at home. That was the general narrative. So let's check in, see how that's looking. Let's get into it. Let's start with a Federal News Network survey. Nearly 80% of over 5,000 federal employees said nothing has improved since going back to the office full time. Not the culture, not the collaboration, not the teamwork, not the conversations by the water cooler, nothing. So what areas saw the worst decline? Well, it was a lot of things. The top three are work-life balance, the commute, and productivity. So we have over 4,000 federal employees that could not even identify one good thing, one positive thing as a result to going into the office full time. One federal worker said, I spend time and money commuting longer to do exactly what I was doing from home, with less productivity, more noise, more interruptions, worse food, and no one I actually work with. Listen, there are some good teams in the federal government, in federal agencies. You can be part of a wonderful team. I've been a part of some great teams. But there are also dysfunctional teams. Teams that really don't get along very well. You don't really want to interact with them. Another federal worker said, nothing's improved. Everything is worse. Limited bandwidth, no IT gear, loud workspaces, long lines, no parking, no cafeteria, low morale. Now, full disclosure, this survey is non-scientific, so many feds, they self-selected to vent their concerns. And out of 5,000, you can cherry pick one or two that say, hey, everything is great, but that's more of the anomaly. Now, in January, 2/3 that were surveyed, they said they were having concerns about space. Will there be enough space? And guess what? They were right. Many have described the return to office efforts like a train wreck. Space is one of the issues. The survey asked, is there enough space in the office? So 2/3 said, yes, there's enough space. But 1/3, that's close to 2,000 people, said that no, there isn't enough space. They're short 80 to 100 desks. You had one person here say, I'm in a conference room with 20 others packed in like sardines. I get an email basically every other day from a federal employee that says either they're stuck in a conference room with 20 other people or their work environment resembles a basement and there's not enough ventilation. So this isn't even a cubicle. A cubicle, you have more room. But you get in one of those conference room setups, you got your elbows bumping into other people, and it's not an environment that encourages productivity. Here's more responses. People are working in hallways, cafeterias, training rooms, even storage closets. Another Fed said, my desk is a card table. I don't know why there would be a card table. I'm envisioning a poker card table. Why would you have that in a federal building? I don't know. Unless it's a DOD MWR building. Other than that, I don't know what's going on there. So a lot of people seem to be struggling with space. One person said, I've got a permanent desk because I've been here forever. Others, they're stuck in conference rooms. And even when there is space, people are still saying it's a little chaotic. 2/3 of people surveyed said there's too much noise going on. So here's the deal. If you're in the cubicle farm and you're trying to do a meeting, people are still doing virtual meetings. It's still on Teams, even though everyone's in the office, because you're talking to people in a different state that might even be on your team. I was on a team where we had one person from California, one person from Colorado, and here I am in Washington, D.C. So we still have to do the virtual team meetings. And when you're there, you go ahead and unmute your mic so you can go ahead and speak into the mic. And then your coworker is talking or coughing or chewing or doing something. It's picked up on the mic and people are left in the meeting like, who's that? What's going on? Why is that person sneezing? So it's kind of weird. It's kind of strange. One worker said, constant interruptions plague our ability to focus. Another one said, some people don't wear headphones no matter how many calls they take. Now let's talk about the tech. There are times where the internet just goes down. Whether it's Wi-Fi, whether it's hardwired, the internet goes down for hours at a time. If you're a federal worker, if you work, let's say IT, administration, finance, in a federal building, the majority of your work is on a computer. You need to access the shared drive. You need to access your agency's system. So you have to get in there. You can't do it if you're offline. So people are just sitting there on their hands, where if they were back home, they would have an internet connection. So what's the solution to this? Well, what I've done in these situations is I use the phone's hotspot. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody can do that. But that is an option to do. One Fed wrote, "Our internet crashes all day. I sit there for hours with no access." Another person said, "It doesn't work half the time, so we just sit there half the time." And then there's parking. So over 40% of the people surveyed here, over 2,000 people, there's an issue with parking. There's always been an issue with parking in DC in a lot of metro areas. This just makes it even worse. Now, in some of the other areas where there's more parking, they're not able to find parking. So you got federal workers circling the parking lot, circling the parking garage, looking for that one spot. In some situations, agencies are actually selling parking pass, and they're sold out within hours. One Fed said, "People park on the grass. Our director says police will ticket." But once you get back inside that office, you got situations where you have elevators broken. So I know people that work on the 9th floor. They have to take the stairs all the way up. Now, for a person like me, maybe you, we could do it. Not a problem. Won't even complain about it. But there's other people that, whether they're older or they have a disability, it's more of a challenge. And it could be impossible for some workers to actually climb 9 flights of stairs. Then you have the broken water fountains that say do not use. But here's an interesting one. When you go into the bathroom, you have to use the bathroom. At times, we're looking at TP shortages, toilet paper. There's not enough toilet paper. And in some situations, it's because the purchasing card has been frozen. So what this means to federal employees, they have to bring their own into the office. Now, we know how Americans feel about TP. Ever since the pandemic, you saw people were losing their minds over the TP. It was like a gold rush in there. You know, you storm Walgreens or you storm the local grocery store to make sure you have enough TP. So that's the situation we're at right now. We got people bringing in their own TP. One Fed said, "We ran out of TP in days, and it's still short." Another said, "Trash cans overflow, bathrooms are filthy, I've seen cockroaches." And it's not just roaches that you're going to see darting around the floors, but if you go down low enough on a federal building, chances are you might see a rat. There's rats scurrying around in basements. You can't get rid of them. You can't get rid of them in DC. Rats are like squirrels almost in DC. If you're walking around outside, you know what I'm talking about. Some people think that these conditions are intentional. Elon Musk said last year, "Make them come in 5 days a week. Voluntary terminations will soar." What some people don't understand is this is not taking the federal workforce back pre-pandemic. Because pre-pandemic, agencies were allowing federal workers to work from home 1 to 3 days a week. So we've never seen the strain on the train system, in the parking garage, on buildings. We've never seen it the way that it is right now. Because for the last 2 decades plus, people were teleworking from the house in some capacity. That's being taken off the table for a lot of people. It's still okay for individuals that have reasonable accommodations because they're disabled. And it's okay for some military spouses. They can still do the telework, or they can do actually fully remote in some situations. But for everyone else, what has happened is the trust has been lost. So the public perception is federal workers cannot continue to work at home. Part of it's trust. The other part of it is I have to work. I have to go into work. So you go to a restaurant, you have your waiters working, you have your cooks working. You go into the mechanic, you have your auto mechanic working. You go pretty much anywhere. You go to the grocery store, everyone's working. So there is this underlying envy of a federal civil servant that's supposed to be working for the people. So why are they not matching my type of work? Why are you able to lounge around in the comfort of your home? So there's a component of envy. There's a component of distrust, and it's not happening. Now, will this be the way, forevermore? No. The future is a hybrid setup, if not fully remote. But let's look at hybrid. Hybrid is the future, and it will go back to that at some point. Not this year, probably. Maybe not even next year. But let's say 2027, or let's say with another presidential administration, even if another Republican gets into office, someone a little bit more center, you could easily see it reverting back to the way it was. And that's going to save everyone time and money. It's going to save the agency because they're going to be able to shrink their footprint somewhat. It's going to save them on leases. It's going to save them on utility bills. It's going to save the employee because even with a tiny government, you want to attract highly competent and value individuals. How do you attract them? You do it with salary or benefits. Salary is capped out. You can't do much with that. But what about benefits? Work-life balance, telework, remote work, hybrid, that's a huge one. If you actually want to get somebody in there, let's say engineer, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence. If you want people like that, that are competent, that are in the top 25% of their field, if you want to try to get them, you're going to have to lure them in some way. Not everybody is going to be willing to do it by working 5 days a week and having to combat the roaches and the rats on any given day. Not everybody's going to be up for that. If you are a current federal employee, you could be looking at the new deferred resignation programs that a lot of agencies are rolling out. And this essentially is you agree to it and you continue to get paid all the way until September 30th, even though you're on paid administrative leave. A lot of people were hesitant of taking it in February, but the individuals that took it in February, they're getting paid. They've already received 2 paychecks. So now there's a lot more trust and confidence built into the program. So more people might end up taking it. And people who don't want to take it, it benefits them as well because hopefully the RIF will not be as severe as long as people are taking the Deferred Resignation Program, or DRP is what they're calling it. If you want to know more about that, check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.